We're excited today to have Brady and Chrissy Broadbent with us for the Moxie Live It Speaker Series. And Brady and I just met an hour and a half ago.
Yeah.
A little bit less like Chrissy. Yeah. So again, thanks for being here, and thanks for the presentation you just gave.
Sure.
Yeah, that was informative and unique. It was different than many others we've done. So I look forward to getting to know you a little bit more. Maybe you could just take a moment, just both of you, if you just introduce yourselves, maybe tell us where you're from.
Why don't you go first?
All right. I'm from a place called Corona, California, which isn't a very popular word this year. So Southern California is my hometown, and Brady and I have lived the last, 15 years in Utah. We lived in Boston for 4 years. But yeah, Utah's been home for a long time. Utah County.
Yeah. Chrissy doesn't call herself a Utahn quite yet, but we're getting there. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, so I grew up in Sandy, or I guess what is now Cottonwood Heights. So in the Salt Lake Valley,
Yeah.
and then I went to BYU, and then as Chrissy mentioned, we went back and forth from Boston to Salt Lake twice, and have been in the Salt Lake area for 8 years now, post business school.
Excellent. We'll go back and dig into that a little bit more. In family, you have kids or?
Yeah. So 2 girls, 9 and 7, and they keep us running. So our youngest is quite a negotiator, and despite any skills I've learned over my career, she's got me beat most of the time.
We need to start recruiting her.
Yeah,
over here.
Exactly.
Yeah, she's great.
So I didn't really lead out with this, but Brady, you are in the world of finance. So I'll kind of back up and you can take us through your career. But right now you're with Sorensen Capital.
Correct. Yep.
BYU undergrad, which we'll get to in a minute, and then Harvard Business School. And so I just want to say, because normally I'll cover that in the introduction. I didn't.
Sure. No
So, but I'd like to back up a little bit and just say, first of all, Corona. Everyone knows what Corona is. So, do you still self-actualize, Chrissy, as being from California?
I
Corona?
do, yeah. I'll always claim California.
There you go.
I
Don't
love
let
it.
him bully you into that.
I know.
Yeah, that's great. We have an office in Corona, by the way.
Yeah.
So, small world. So, I guess we'll back up. You were in Sandy. What high school did you go to?
Yeah. So I went to Brighton.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and that was Brighton's heyday.
Uh-huh.
Things have changed a little bit. So that was before the days of Corner Canyon, and I don't know if Lone Peak was around. I guess it probably was back then, but. So yeah, it was a little different world, but I went to Brighton, graduated in 2000.
In 2000, and you went to
2001, Corona High School.
Corona High School.
The football team wasn't very good. In fact, John played on, I think, Murrieta High School.
Yeah.
And they beat us for sure. But
Didn't
the
you have
cheerleaders were really
wasn't there a
cute.
running back that was out of Corona that went to Stanford and kind of went in the NFL, was pretty good?
Yeah, he went to Centennial High School.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a rival.
What was his name?
I don't know if I would remember off the top of my head.
Me
but
either, but
yeah.
somebody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Someone cool came out of Corona.
Not as cool as John Clark, but somebody pretty
Yeah, pretty cool.
It's a high bar.
So someone pretty good. Okay, so great. And at what point did you both attend BYU? We'll get there in a second.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, so at what point you're in high school and you're 15, 16, what are some of the activities you did? Or did you do any?
Yeah, that's a good question. Chrissy did a lot more than I did, but I played like club tennis. I was really into grades in school. I did play some golf. I like golf, though I'm not very good. My high school experience was kind of, I had a really good time, but I was sort of constantly looking to college or sort of, the next steps.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it, but college was kind of a better fit for me.
How about you, Chrissy?
I'll just add Brady also was a really good skier, and he
That's true.
skied in high school, and
That's
he's
true.
a really good piano player, and he was
Do you still play?
learning that
I
in
do.
high school too.
Yeah. In fact, we didn't have a piano up until about 9 months ago, a year ago, and it's been really fun to get back into it. Both of our daughters play now, which is kind of fun.
I have theories about pianists and musicians and how it unlocks your brain a little bit more. So a lot of people I know, I'm musically stunted, but I've noticed some of the people I know who are musically gifted. My eldest daughter was very, very good, very gifted with the piano, and I noticed she was very good with creativity, but also very, very good with STEM and the sciences. So very good writer, and I wonder if all the training she did in the piano didn't help. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting now. As growing up, it was always a headache, right, to have to practice, whatever.
Yeah.
But now I'll come out of my office, which is just across from the piano, and it's a total de-stressor. Even if I take 6 minutes and play, it sort of resets my brain. It's really interesting to see.
I would think if there was something more concrete that it actually unlocks your brain, that maybe the college admittance committees or people like Sorensen Capital would figure that in and put it into some of their modeling, right? So there must not be that much to it, but anyway, I'm going to stick with it. 15-year-old Brady, what did you want to do if I asked you when you were 15, so where are you going to be in 10, 15 years? What would you have said?
Yeah, so we've laughed about this in the past. When I was in 6th grade, I took a what should I do with my life test? They make all the kids take.
Yeah.
And the result of that test was you should be a CEO. And so at the time, as a 6th grader, I was like, okay, sure, that sounds cool.
This test is genius. How did it know?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Right? So I always kind of had this, maybe I asked too many questions, but I didn't. I often sort of wanted to learn something for myself, or if a teacher said, "Hey, well, this is how it is," often the thought went through my head like, "Nah, I'm not sure if that's right." So I kind of had this little bit of a do it my way kind of mentality, without trying hard to not be arrogant, but I like to kind of.
Couldn't help it. It just went into your head. That just said, I'm not sure about that.
I liked kind of charting my own course. And so, I tried to, I don't know, let that direct me. So 15-year-old, I was really into the outdoors. So my dad has been fantastic about getting us outside. And so, the weekends we were doing power sports outside and camping and that kind of thing. And I just, I kind of loved that. And then I'd buckle down and do homework and then do something else. And, I just I felt like I was just in prep mode for sort of pursuing the pathway that was coming. But really learned to love school and then things outside of school as well. But I didn't do a lot of the traditional, I played sports, but I never really pursued sports. I didn't really pursue clubs or things like that. It was I kind of found the stuff that I liked, and I kind of doubled down.
Yeah. It sounded like you liked grades.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you were pretty focused there.
Yeah.
After we learn a little bit more about Chrissy, then I'm going to have some more questions about that.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Chrissy, he said you're a little bit more active. So what were you into?
Yeah, I just was super involved in high school. I think a lot of that came from when I was younger. I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis when I was 6 until I was about 12. And so I couldn't really do any sports. But then I went into remission and I could do pretty much anything I wanted. And
Is
so
that
I
treatable?
wanted to try it all. Yeah.
Is it treatable? I mean, do they treat it or just go into remission?
No, I mean, I've learned because has since come back in my adulthood.
Sorry.
Yeah, but it's livable and you can deal with it. It's just managing pain most of the time.
Yeah.
And they have great medications these days and good doctors. We'd love to see more research go into it. We'd love to see, a cure for it someday, but it's it falls into that autoimmune bucket, and I feel like that it's a big unexplored category still. Cancer obviously is more dangerous and scary and affects people in a harder way than autoimmune issues, and so a lot of the research and dollars don't go that direction, but maybe one day.
Yeah, maybe
that's
one day.
something we'd like to look into, but
I've seen some pretty rough cases of rheumatoid arthritis. I mean,
Yeah,
so that
yeah.
cancer doesn't have a whole lot on.
It can
So I
be
mean, I guess it kind
scary.
of depends
Yeah.
how that goes.
yeah.
So
So
when-
we're
when-
hoping, I'll go into remission again. We may not, but
hope
I
you do
think
too.
as a kid, I always thought I would grow out of it, that it would go away, and it did.
How old were you when it went into
I was
remission?
12.
Okay.
And so, and my doctors never really told me it would come back. And so I think I was just kind of stunned after having my second baby. When I got sick again, the symptoms came back and I knew exactly what it was. And it kind of devastated me for a while. But during that time, I think when I didn't have it from like 12 to 30, it just was like, I'm going to chase every dream I ever had, and so I did soccer and track and cheer and leadership and choir and theater. And
Jeez.
I just was one of those like super weird girls that loved school and everything it had to offer. And I think, that got me into BYU, not my grades. My grades were decent, but not great like Brady's. And then when I was at BYU, it was kind of the same thing. It's like I wasn't just there to go to class, but I wanted to be involved, and so I did BYUSA, their leadership program, and I worked in the ticket office and just had different opportunities than most, students take advantage of as a college student. It was fun. It was good. And then I met Brady, and he told me to like get my priorities straight and focus on what really matters, and that was him.
That's what he just told us right in there. Just now, it was the same. Was the same slide deck?
Yeah, it was. He sat me down. He's like,
a 15-year-old
get
slide
your
deck.
priorities straight, balance your life.
No. Truth is, Chrissy is good at everything she tries.
I could tell.
It's not true.
And so it's it's cool to see. My bandwidth wasn't quite that big, right? So it's really cool.
Yeah.
I know if you really do get into trying to do work with rheumatoid arthritis in the future, give me a call.
Yeah.
That sounds like a fun thing to be a part of. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's something we've talked about. It's an area that is kind of a mess right now from a treatment perspective, and technology can do a lot to fix it.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you do go into remission. I hope that the suffering isn't so bad, and that in any way it can be less bad.
Thank you.
I wish that for you. I'm sorry.
you
I'm
so
sure I know
much.
that has an impact on everyone. And
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
so, but it sounds like you were like all everything, and like it sounds like you've always been all everything. You still are, but you weren't at Corona High School forever. But it sounded like quite an accomplished career, and then at BYU. So let me ask you. So like it sounds like with your grades, you could have gone places that weren't BYU. Why did you end up choosing BYU?
That's a great question. So I've reflected on this a lot. When I was in high school, I remember very clearly being in a classroom where the admissions people from schools came, and I think I was a junior at the time, and it was the University of Utah, BYU, Westminster, and the schools around here. And I kind of thought, well, I think I'm supposed to go into business, per my 6th grade test, of course, right? And so I said, well, which one of these has the best business program? And it was BYU, and that felt good. But yeah, it was maybe a few years into my undergrad, then I kind of went, maybe it was even longer than that. I kind of went, man, I never even thought about any schools outside. And clearly, like, BYU was the right path, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
But it truly never entered my psyche. I never even considered it. And I think about our kids, and like when they get to that age, how we might guide them, and clearly we're going to push them to BYU, right?
If we can.
But yeah, I never even thought about it. It's kind of interesting how it all played out. But clearly, the right way. But
So I told you about my horror experience, my first week at BYU, and
yes.
being publicly shamed for not knowing what I want to do for career, and not knowing what my major was going to be.
Yeah.
Because I was quote unquote stealing the widow's mite. I'm just curious.
I'm sorry about that, by the way.
Oh, I'm not. I'm still deciding whether it's true or not. But I've suffered a lot of guilt over it.
Yeah.
But my point is like when you were a freshman, did you kind of know your path?
It's a good question. So I knew that I wanted to go into the business program. What I didn't know was exactly what part of the program I wanted to go into, and ultimately what I wanted to do with it. It was a little scary, actually, for me, because I didn't have business is a little amorphous, and so it was like, well, yeah, I want to go to business because, again, my 6th grade test, and so I want to do that, but I didn't really know what that meant. And nowadays, a lot of the BYU students realize that, like, okay, after freshman year, I need to do a good internship, and that needs to lead to this and that and the other, and then full time. And I was like, doing yard work in the summertime, and kind of just kind of figuring it out. My whole family are dentists. And so, this whole pathway was totally new to them.
You're never thinking dentistry, though?
No, I worked for my dad's dental practice on occasion. And it took about 3 of the like dirty trays, after a procedure. And I was like, okay,
you said
I'm out.
Dad, it's just this. I would, but do you see the test?
Yeah, exactly.
Dentistry. It came out like not dentistry.
I mean, the 6th grade test,
Yeah.
Dad. So
if you guys pound together and get bigger and hire a CEO, then give me a call.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. So yeah, I knew I wanted to go to business. I took a lot of the classes I had to take. I took a couple that were kind of different. And then I went on my mission. And when I came back from my mission, I was really fortunate to get some very clear direction as to what I should do as far as the exact dynamics of the program and where to focus.
Where did you serve?
Argentina, Buenos Aires.
Buenos Aires.
Yeah, the South
Excellent.
Mission.
So, is it too much to ask what that experience was like, where you got your clear direction? Like, what happened?
Yeah, not at all. So as you can tell from the presentation, I value my belief system highly. And so I was trying to figure out which emphasis in the business program to pursue.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is close to home. And I remember I was in my apartment with my roommate, who was has been a close friend for a long time and who I grew up with. And I sought guidance, right, through prayer. And I opened the scriptures that I read, and I read a verse, and the verse said something on the order of, do your work in your own name. And it repeated it several times. And I knew for me immediately that was entrepreneurship. And that was one of the emphasis opportunities that I had that was fairly new in the program. And I knew that was what I needed to do. And again, at the time, I really had no idea where that was going to lead. But I knew that was the step. And as I look back on my career and the steps, it's been a very consistent experience. This sort of what's the next turn, and I'm very grateful for that. But that was the experience that got me there. And once I knew I wanted to go into the entrepreneurship program, it was kind of just enjoy the learning and figure it out as I go. I had a professor who was awesome in a strategy program, and was kind enough to invite me to work with him on strategy consulting cases as an undergrad. And that's what ultimately got me to my career start.
Wow.
But that happened because of the program I was in.
So it sounds like you sought and received divine guidance, not just the one time that you shared, but it sounds like along the way that's kind of been a pattern.
Right.
I'm not asking for more. I'm just asking if that's what you're
absolutely
saying.
Yeah.
So at what point did you say, I want to get an MBA?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I had kind of thought about it ever since undergrad. It was kind of one of those things that was out there. And it was interesting. Maybe this is the point at which I started to think about sort of the Ivy League experience. But I remember having the thought, maybe around graduation after undergrad, or maybe it was during my first job, somewhere around that time frame. I had this thought come to me. It was like, look, if I could study at fill in the blank, Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, Michigan, Berkeley, pick your school that's sort of in that group. I think I should probably take advantage of that, right? And so that was kind of my mentality. And I honestly was not very savvy as it relates to like whether it was a good investment and like whether it was going to help my career. I just kind of thought like, wow, that'd be a good educational experience, right? So I had applied, or was planning to apply to 6 different schools, 3 the first round, or 4 the first round, 2 the next round, just to try and get in somewhere, right? And thankfully, I only got into one school, so it made it really
Harvard's
easy.
the only one you got into?
It was the only one I got
The
into.
other one said no.
He said no. Yeah. Said thanks, but no thanks.
Huh.
Your hair's too gray. You're still young, but your hair's too gray. Anyway, so that's kind of how that played out.
What did you think about this at this point, Chrissy? So first off, you had a job. Maybe we should go there first. Right?
Yeah, sure.
So you graduated from BYU. You're not sure if you wanted to get an MBA yet.
Right. Yep.
And then you interviewed around. How did you land that first job?
Yeah. So I remember we were interviewing, and our first offer was very different than where we ended up. And I remember talking about that first offer, and it was kind of like, well, I'm glad I have a job, but it was very different than what I kind of thought I wanted, right? So I just interviewed with different places. I had done a consulting internship the year before, and so I kind of knew that was where I wanted to go. And LEK ended up being a really good fit. So that's kind of how it worked.
And you moved to
Boston.
Yeah, Boston, working for LEK. What did you think? I mean, when it was being discussed with you, did you say, I don't know about LEK, or I don't know about Boston, or this is great?
Well,
I'm curious.
What's interesting is
that's not California.
Well, that's what I was going to say. He got the offer, and it was for LEK LA. And I was stoked.
Santa Monica.
Bait and switch.
LA.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was so excited. My dad's in real estate, so we went home, and he was driving us around all the different neighborhoods of LA, and I could see myself
You did that? You actually went there? We're driving
yeah,
looking at neighborhoods?
we did.
Oh, that is
We
pulling the
did.
rug out.
I know. And I studied broadcast journalism, and I had some friends that worked in broadcasting in LA, and so I just thought it was going to be a great fit for me. It was going to be a great fit for him. I was excited to live in like Westwood or whatever we were looking at.
Yeah, posh California.
And then he gets an email or a phone call, and they invited him to consider the LEK Boston office, and that's their corporate office. And so it would have just been a better fit, I think, for Brady and for his career. But I was devastated.
I don't see you going, yes.
No, and they flew him out, and he got to stay in this great suite, and he was feeling really good about it. And I was like, no, like we were going to LA. Like I was gonna get my Utah boy to go to LA with me and
right.
back to California, and so that was hard. That was a hard decision, and I think I went out to Boston just kind of upset and sad to be away from my family, and wasn't really ready to give it a full chance. And then we really fell in love with the city, and it was a fun place to live and to serve in the church, and we grew a ton there. And I don't think we would have had the opportunities that we did if we would have gone to LA. I don't even know if Harvard would have worked out if we hadn't gone to Boston and been there.
So you went to Boston what year?
2006.
When you say you warmed up to it, I know you don't mean the weather, but
Not the weather.
when did you, Chrissy, feel I kind of like it here?
Yeah, so it took a while. I hated driving in the city so much, and I took an internship with WCVB TV, which was the NBC affiliate out there, and I was doing commercials for the news as my internship. So it was a fun internship.
Were you producing them? Were you starring in them?
Yeah, producing it, writing it.
All of it.
Yeah, and then I'd give my script to the anchor or to the man with the deep voice, and he would record it, and then it would come on during Oprah or whatever.
Voice talent.
Yep, the voice talent. Mm-hmm. So then, anyway, they offered me a job, and I just didn't see myself pursuing that side of broadcasting. So there happened to be a guy in our ward that was working for Mitt Romney's campaign in the finance department, and I asked him for a job, and he said, yes, but we can't pay you until we clear Super Tuesday. And I said, I don't care. I want to work for free because I want to work on this campaign. And so I felt like kind of when I left, actually there was another job in between there too. I worked at a venture capital firm called Battery Ventures as their receptionist, and kind of all through that, I just never really found a career for myself in Boston. But what really hit home for me was serving in our church. We're members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I was asked to serve in the Relief Society, which is the women's group. And there were lots of needs, different than what I'd seen serving in my BYU ward here in Utah. And there were just special friendships and connections that were made. And I think I felt most at home in Boston when I got that calling and was able to serve and connect with sisters in my community and my neighborhood doing that.
That happens, right? When you
Yeah.
you have the opportunity to serve and help other people and meet needs, then it's sort of hard to not. I mean, it just brings out feelings of love and belonging and family. So it sounds like it was a good experience. So, what kind of stuff work-wise were you doing at LEK?
Yeah, so so I joined the Boston office. Boston office was sort of industry agnostic. So there's a lot of different industries that we served. So I was all over the place. I did retail, I did pharma, I did biotech, I did.
When you say you did that, what were you doing?
Yeah, so basically the average case is, call it, at least this was a long time ago, so if this may be totally different, but when I was there, the average case was probably 6 weeks, maybe 4 weeks.
This is consulting.
Yeah, so this is consulting.
So
work.
you're not trying to drum up business. You're not looking at business to invest into, kind of like you do now necessarily.
Right.
There's a client, and you
Yeah.
have a mandate, and
Yeah,
this
so
is what we're doing for this client.
Yeah, so the leaders of the firm, the partners of the firm, would go out and build, would sell casework, consulting work, right?
Yeah.
Where they go into a C-level team, management team, and say, hey, how can we help you? And they say, oh, we got this problem, or we got this opportunity. We'd love for you guys to take a look at this, and we'll pay you to develop a solution or develop some thoughts. And then you bring it back to the guys, at the office, and we'd do the work and run the analysis and do the research and try to solve those problems, and then present a deck that was all the answers, quote unquote, right? So it was great. Yeah. So that was.
It sounds almost exactly like what I'm guessing your Harvard work experience, your Harvard business school was like.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Except not paid.
Yeah. Exactly. Except not paid. Yeah. No, it was great, and it was it's phenomenal learning. You're thrown into situations that are very new, and yet you know how to learn, you know how to figure it out, and so that was often highly valued, right, by the client, is like somebody who can come at this from a different angle and work through it. So yeah, I was allocated outside of my own direction, meaning I was just put on the cases that they needed me to be on, one after the next, and I just kind of pick up the problem and pick up my work stream and go. And it was a steep learning curve, but yeah, that was the type of work I was doing.
I have a couple questions about that. So the first one is, you mentioned that when you were doing your undergrad, twice you worked with a professor there.
Yeah.
That was able to give you some work experience. How integral was that work experience and/or his recommendation to landing the job with LEK?
Yeah, so it was very important for me to just figure out what consulting was, and how to take a problem and dissect it, and then figure out how to address each piece. Truth be told, I'm not sure that he was ever like a reference. He may have been.
Sure.
But it was critical in me understanding the consulting pathway, and how that could be a great start to my career.
What is your opinion on why they chose to hire you? LEK.
LEK.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm not sure I've ever thought about that before. I'm
assuming your grades were good.
The grades were good. Yeah, but that was probably the case for most people that applied. It's interesting. I think BYU students today and back then are unique. They are driven. We just listened to an awesome podcast by the late President Gordon B. Hinckley, who addressed the student body at BYU and congratulated them on being stone cold sober for the 25th year in a row or whatever, right?
There's something to that, though, right?
There's something to that, right? So BYU students are they're focused, they're engaged, they're driven, and I think vis-a-vis other programs that put us into a good box. And then me specifically, I'm not sure. I love to learn, and I like to figure things out. That's kind of how I de-stress. And I don't know, maybe they saw some of that. Maybe there was divine intervention on my behalf. I'm sure that was the case. But
I'm guessing you mentioned 3 times beginning, middle, and end communication skills. My guess is that you interviewed well. I think you have some pretty good communication skills.
Oh, you're kind. You're kind to say that. No, yeah, it's been something that I've tried to work on. I still use dude and bro and all the good words, But yeah, I hopefully
There's
that
a
was
lot more
helpful.
to it than that, though, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So you're at LEK. At what point do you say, "Hey, I think I want to go to Harvard"?
Yeah. So I actually joined Sorensen before.
Sorry, that's right.
No,
That's
it
right.
was totally fine. But actually, when I was at LEK, I had to kind of carve the path to do business school to some degree. So I talked with a couple of my managers about potentially being letters of recommendation. I actually took the GMAT twice, one while I was working, and it was a train wreck. And the next time, actually after I left LEK and before I started at Sorensen, I studied for 40 hours a week for like 2 weeks or
So
something.
you had 2 jobs after LEK. One was a job
Yeah,
doing
to
GMAT.
take the test. That's
The
right.
second one was Sorensen.
Yeah, and I would say I skirted by on the GMAT, and sort of got to a level where I felt like it wouldn't be a ding,
Yeah.
But it was hard for me. It was really hard for me.
What was the path that led you back to Sorensen, or to Sorensen, not back?
Yeah.
To first time.
Yeah, the first time. Yeah, so I had a good friend who was working at the firm at the time, and he actually had grown up with my cousins, and for some odd reason had come over to my parents' home to drop off some clothes or packages or something really odd. I don't think he's been to my parents since.
Here in Sandy.
Here in Sandy. And he told them that I needed to come work at Sorensen. And so my parents, of course, told me that because they wanted us to come back from Boston, And
They might have just made it up.
yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, I connected with him and got to know the firm a little bit. And I had figured out the private equity may be an interesting next step, or investments could be an interesting next step for me. And so I was actually interviewing at other firms in Boston, New York,
Same type of jobs.
same type of job.
Okay.
Yep. And so I connected with the firm, and they were kind enough to interview me, and it was a good fit. I really liked the team. I liked kind of the direction they were headed. And so we came out in May of 2008 from Boston.
You got to Boston in 2006.
6.
So that's not California. So he's taking you back to Sandy. I'm curious how this went. You're working. You get this great gig going
I'm
through
like,
Relief
we're
Society.
closer.
You finally got it figured out. And they're saying Boston's pretty good, and then
Yeah.
and then hey, let's go to Salt Lake. And you said,
I said, let's go. Tally
Yeah.
ho.
yeah.
Chrissy was standing by the door with her
You said,
bags
that's
packed when the
3/4
offer
of the
came.
way to California,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and I think what I had figured out, so Mid had lost the campaign in 2008. And so I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. And I was thinking about going back to get a master's degree. And so with Brady coming back to Utah, I figured I could go back to school in Utah. And so I started looking at master's programs. And I found the Romney Institute of Public Management at BYU.
Yeah.
And so that's where I did my master's degree there while he was doing his first 2 years at Sorensen. So it was a good fit, good timing, and it all kind of played out. And so I've just been lucky to kind of find something that works for me
great.
wherever Brady takes us. And we've always been blessed.
So you
both
finished your
of us.
master's degree here at BYU with. What did you think of the program?
I love the
I've
program.
heard it's great.
It's a great program, and I thought I wanted to work in kind of more the nonprofit sector going into it, and I just kind of fell in love with government work. And don't ask me why. I don't know why. Government's not always that appealing, but I got a great job at the Governor's Office of Economic Development while I was doing the program, and I got to work under some fantastic people. Spencer Eccles and Derek Miller,
Wow.
And we just had some really great times helping businesses succeed in Utah and growing the economy in Utah, and kind of getting to be on the forefront of that was a fun job.
And important. And rewarding. I mean, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So that was fun.
Yeah. That sounds really fun. And did you have children by this time? That you should have.
No. So no children yet.
Well, we're almost there, though, if they're 9 and 7.
Yeah, by the time I graduated from my master's program, Brady had gotten into his master's program. So we were going back to the East Coast, to Boston. And that's about when I told him, it's time. We got to figure out how to start our family now. And so luckily, I mean, we didn't really plan it to work out, but our first daughter was born in between his first and second year of business school. And she was born in Boston, not far from Fenway Park. And then we, like a couple weeks later, had to move to his internship in upstate New York at a place called Corning, in Corning, New York. And that's where Hallie lived the first 3 months of her life, in a cute little hotel in Corning, New York.
Which she's very proud of, by the way. She was born in New York, or born in Boston, lived in New York.
Makes her kind of unique here.
Someday we'll show her exactly where she lives, you know.
Deflate that balloon a little bit. So when you went to Sorensen, I can't imagine they were too surprised that you wanted to go back to Harvard, and maybe they even liked it.
Yes. Yeah. So it was a 2-year program.
Yeah.
And so it was fully expected for me to either go do something else or go to business school. So yeah, it was very natural step.
I'm surprised. I mean, just that you didn't get actually into more schools. I mean, who cares? You got into Harvard. But I mean, like with those 2 levels of work experience, that you had both private equity, venture capital type experience, and you had consulting experience. That seems like it would. That's pretty awesome.
Well, you're kind. It's there's a lot of smart people out there, and it's a humbling experience to go through the application process and look at the average scores and the average work experience, and then show up to class the first day, you know, and be sitting next to a MD MBA who wrote the textbook for the, MD program at Harvard Medical School
in neuroscience,
who's a world-renowned neuroscientist at this point, right? It was a different experience, right? And so we were very fortunate to get in. All the schools we were planning to apply to are great programs, but it ended up being a really good fit as far as the experience.
Great. So you're at Harvard and plugging away. The second when you went back to Boston, were you like? I'm just curious, like, what were your thoughts?
Again. I was more prepared this time.
Were you supportive?
Very supportive. And I think it was nice because we knew what we were getting ourselves into, and it was fun for our friends at business school because we knew how to get around town, we knew where to park, we knew the great places to eat. We just didn't have as much money to spend on food.
Yeah.
But yeah, New England's a fun place, and I think once we had figured it out and how to embrace it, then we were good to go back.
What were each of your favorite thing about Harvard Business School? And for you, whatever it is that you liked, and for you, Brady, as much you can, specific as to what you liked about the business school experience.
Yeah, you want to go first?
Yeah, well, I didn't attend classes.
You were there.
But they had a great partners program that embraced and reached out to wives and partners of the students, and because I had a child there, I got involved with Crimson Kids, and so we connected with all the moms that lived on and off campus that had children while their spouses were trying to go to Harvard Business School.
Well, you're accomplished in your own right. That's why I was asking. Like, I know you're starting to have kids, but there's just like the first round, all the things that you were doing with your degree in journalism and production, and then on the Romney campaign. So.
Right.
I mean, there's all kinds of things that you
that I could have done, and I just really wanted to.
You did.
Have that.
You went to the Crimson Kids and were being a mom. I mean, it doesn't sound like you were sitting around with a lot of spare time.
I mean, I didn't have a job.
Yeah.
But it was fun to just get to know the people. There's just never again will we rub shoulders with such amazing, accomplished, but kind people, and those friendships mean the world to me, and we're so grateful for those people in our lives, and I'm grateful for the time that I took to just be there and enjoy it and get to cultivate that, because it was a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly well said. Just some phenomenal people, and we've been lucky enough that a lot of our close friends are here in the state now. Utah's been a great place economically from a business perspective, and so there's a lot of opportunities and just amazing people. Amazing people. So I very much appreciated and value those friendships. For me, the classroom experience during my first year was transformative for me. It put me into an environment with very intelligent people, and put me in a place where I was forced to provide my perspective, and then I was disagreed with almost every time. And you do that.
That's awesome.
You do that.
That's awesome.
15 times a week.
Yeah.
For a year, 2 years, and it puts you in a position where you can consider other perspectives, but you can also consider your own, and you can hold your ground, and you can adjust your perspective, and
even if you have the right idea, it makes it sharper and better.
Right. And I really appreciate that. My section mates were very patient with my perspectives, and it was just a really great experience that way. It was really, it opened my eyes to different perspectives. And some of the perspectives that I had probably got deeper. I probably became more opinionated on some of the ideas that I had before business school. But on others, I came out with a very different perspective.
But your classmates helped you in both of those things, right?
Absolutely.
They helped you change your perspective, and also their discussions and their challenges helped you deepen.
That's right.
Your resolve in the ones that grew stronger. I'm
Yes.
guessing.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely correct. And just a phenomenal group of people doing awesome things, and really striving to add value to the world. So it was awesome. We had a great experience. It was one that gave us a great platform, I think, to continue down the career path, right, and the life path. But we loved it, and thankfully, we got the chance to enjoy Boston a little bit more than we did before. I was working a lot, and so it was nice to be able to go back and have a little bit less stress, and be able to enjoy the town.
So I've been to Boston once, which is criminal. But could you tell me each one thing that I need to do next time I go to Boston?
Eat at the Union Oyster House.
Done.
Downtown. It's the best.
Okay.
Yeah.
The best seafood. And
eat at Giacomo's.
And Giacomo's.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like Italian seafood.
Yeah.
In the North End.
Yeah. Basically, the answer to that question will always be eat at, right, and then fill in the blank.
The best food there.
But yeah, no, we had some awesome restaurants. The what's it called? The Freedom Trail. It's fantastic.
Trail,
the history is awesome.
And then head out to the Old North Bridge, where the first shots of the Revolutionary War were fired, in Lexington and Concord. It's pretty magical.
It's really hard to not come away with an incredible appreciation for U.S. history. It's great.
So of all the things you just named, I think going to Lexington Bridge is the only one that I did.
Yeah.
And in the same trip, right around the corner, we went to, Thoreau's place, Walden Pond.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And I thought, wow, the Lexington Concord Bridge is so much more beautiful than Walden Pond.
I know.
I was like,
kind of a letdown,
because I remember studying transcendentalism and everything about, getting out into nature, and I thought, he could have done better.
This is it?
He could have done better.
They did use the word pond, which should have been a little bit of a hint, but
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I agree.
big.
Yeah, no, there's some.
Should have hung out at that bridge. That's
I know.
gorgeous.
Isn't that pretty up there?
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Well, okay. So did you know while you were at Harvard you wanted to go back to Sorensen?
So when I left Sorensen, it was there was no agreement, there was no handshake, there was no nothing. It was just, hey, thank you. Hope you have a great experience in business school, and that was really good for me. I wanted to be able to go to business school with kind of a clean slate, if you will, or being able to look at the world of opportunities in a fresh light, right? At the same time, I had a really good experience, and I felt like the direction that the firm was headed was really good, and so I kept in close touch with the partners, and the dialogue kind of continued over time. But yeah, to answer your question, when I went to business school, it was kind of totally a new world in a sense.
Something you said in here to our group tonight that I really appreciated you saying was, you said, going to business school. I don't remember your exact words, but one of the things you said is, I don't know that I'm necessarily going to make more money. And you kind of talked about, you even did some quick math. I think you said, cost you $200,000 plus the money you weren't making, add that up.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to make up for.
Right.
As you're on your way back. And then I don't remember what you said, but you said, but it changed me and it's a different experience. I only have an undergraduate degree in accounting from BYU. And one of my largest regrets is that I didn't go get a graduate level degree. And it didn't need to be an MBA. I mean, any graduate level degree that I would have thought was interesting or fascinating, history, whatever.
Yeah.
And maybe even not even a PhD. And I've had people say to me a lot of times, like a lot, aren't you glad you did what you did, because you're certainly better off financially? And I think that's not expressing very much faith in me. First off, that's like, is that a soft slap or what? But the regret isn't that. It's because I agree with what you said. And when I listened to you talk about Harvard, my regret is I believe that the education we get and those experiences, it's like a pair of glasses, that our education is a lens through which we see life, like everything. Every word that we hear, every conversation that we have, everything that we read or see, anything that our brain processes is different, because of where we're from and different cultural and educational experiences we have. And so, like, you just explained the process that first year, sitting with your classmates and all these bright people. And I heard you say, at least my understanding of it was, because it's the dream that I missed, is that I heard you say it's not just the fact that you're sitting next to smart people. It's the way you were engaging, interacting with them that changed you and shaped you and helped give you a new pair of glasses or lenses that you see the world through, that you get for the rest of your life. And that I don't have that. So I have the bachelor's lens, and I'm grateful for it. But I would think that it sounds like that's something that you very much value.
Yes, no, absolutely. And sometimes comments were made that I totally disagreed with. And I got.
Isn't that an important part of it?
Absolutely.
I mean, that, like, wouldn't it be missing something if that didn't happen?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I got at least enough confidence to say, hang on a second, right? And then there's some comments that were made, and I stopped and went, holy smokes, that was a really good point, And so yeah, it was really great. It was a really great experience to kind of form that lens. And your lens is constantly changing,
sure,
right? As you go through your experiences in life and careers and so forth.
The friends you choose to associate with, all of our decisions.
Yeah. And so, it was fantastic for as an additional launching pad, right? To think through the world in a different way.
Yeah. Okay. So we come back to what ultimately was the primary reason you chose to go back to Sorensen Capital.
Yeah.
Both of you. That's for both of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did we do no? Sorensen's been great. Yeah. So as I mentioned, as we talked about a little earlier, it was a difficult decision, but in a similar way, I tried very hard to seek inspiration and guidance, divine guidance.
Yeah.
And I would say the way that the path was unfolded was miraculous. Though it was hard, it was miraculous in the sense that the right things happened at the right time. It's important to me to do what I say I'm going to do, at least to the best of my ability. I've got all kinds of weaknesses and shortcomings and everything else, but that's at least a principle that I try to live. And I had agreed to go back to Sorensen about a year prior. And so that was not lost on me, right? That did not sit well, the idea of not doing what I had agreed to do. But more important than that, or maybe not more important, but in addition to that, as I sought guidance, I knew that I needed to spend some extra time to help the company that I had started transition. But I also knew that it was the right thing to
This
go
is the
back
company
to
you
Sorenson.
started while you were at Harvard.
Well, I was at Harvard. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was hard for you to leave that company.
Yeah, it was difficult. You know, I think, you know, there were some good things happening, but you know, I think it was the right path, and so we followed it, and it's worked out, and you know, there's a lot of learnings along the way, but yeah, I very much enjoyed investments. I enjoyed the daily change. Despite the fact that you often feel like you kind of wasted time pursuing an opportunity that ultimately you didn't invest in, right? There was a tremendous amount of learning, constant learning and constant change. And I like that. And so I felt like that was going to be a really good fit. And out of business school, you know, I wanted to continue to learn in that way. So it was great. So yeah, you know, we got things transitioned and moved back to Sorenson.
Thank you. I know I'm going out of order, and I apologize. I skipped it, but the business you started while you were at Harvard was in the healthcare space, correct?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So how did that come about? Was it a case study? Was it something you had to look into, and then it just took off? Or
no? So
I've known some people that have done that.
Yeah. So I found a co-founder at business school who's a close friend of mine, and then he had a contact who was the third co-founder, and so we started the company and then had a CEO come and who joined the company, and one of my co-founders stayed, and they did a phenomenal job, you know, building the business, and after I had gone back to Sorenson.
So the company went on to be successful.
Yeah. So they've done a really good job and great people. So anyway, yeah, but it was great for me to go to school, learn, be able to apply, and then come back to a field that I felt like I really found some fun footing. And you know, I've been doing it post business school for 8 or 9 years now, so clearly, like, it's been good, right? And I enjoy it still. But yeah, it's constantly changing.
So one of the questions I didn't hear asked tonight that I was thinking the whole time is, like, what is your favorite thing about your job?
Yeah. So probably the dynamic nature of it. Meaning, you know, you asked me the question, right? Yeah. How many companies do I look at?
Yeah.
And it's a lot. You know, I think today it was 3 or 4 in one day, right, of new stuff that's coming in. So I like that. I think the best part of my job, though, is working with the companies that I get to support, right? So, and working with the folks that I work with, building a business, and you know this, as an entrepreneur, is an emotional roller coaster. And the great thing and the challenge with that, right, is it can be a lonely road. The great thing is if you bring people onto the train with you that can help and provide the support, those emotional roller coasters become less steep, and you can focus on progress in the right way. And so that's what I really love, you know, is trying to help companies succeed and grow and try to add some value and help and see around corners and do some of the things that, you know, it's hard to do when you're day-to-day operating. And it, you know, working with great people is just fun. You know, being able to kind of choose companies to invest in is fun because you get to form partnerships and support people that are changing industries, right? And that's a riot. That's a ton of fun. So there's a lot of work and there's a lot of cycles. You know, there's a lot of investments that you ultimately don't do. But I like that dynamic a lot.
What would you say is the hardest part for you?
You know, it's probably the other side of that coin, and that is there are so many opportunities and so many that ultimately are not a fit for us, right?
Sometimes the idea, sometimes the people.
Yeah, there's thousands of reasons, right? Why
Yeah.
It may not be a fit, and that's sometimes hard. One of the things I've learned is the best investors are the best at turning investments down. They're the best at determining that, you know, it's not a fit, but B, communicating effectively with an entrepreneur that, hey, I'm unfortunately I can't support you, but here are some things that I think could be helpful to you. And I think that makes a great investor is somebody who can lift the entrepreneurial society while at the same time doing 1% of the deals that they look at or whatever it is.
So that leaves me with two questions. The first one is, if the 300 deals you looked at in 2020, how many of them did you make investments in?
Yeah. So let's see. The last deal that I personally led was about a year ago. So it was late 2019. Mm-hmm. And we'll see, as a firm, it kind of ebbs and flows, but in a given fund, you may have, I don't know, you're not going to make 100 bets, at least in our business, right? And so over the course of a few years, you're going to make dozens, not hundreds of bets. In
1% of what comes across the.
Yeah,
or half a percent of what comes across.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, you see a lot of opportunities, and there's a ton of great businesses out there that we look at. And sometimes, we're not the chosen party, but yeah, thankfully we've been able to find, some great opportunities.
The second question that I have is you said that sometimes when it's not a fit, you said some of the best investment advice I've heard you say, at least to me, was to know when not to not do a deal.
Yeah.
But then you said, but I can give some advice and say, but here's some things that you can do. I'm curious if you've ever seen that lead to future business development.
Yeah. It's a great question.
That builds tremendous trust.
Yeah.
Covey would call that an emotional deposit.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. Yeah. Paying it forward. Right.
Yeah.
No, it's a principle that's really important to me because, it's interesting. The only thing that's consistent is that things change. Right. And so the circumstances that you find yourself in today can quickly change. It might be the case that I say no to an investment today, and then, 4 years from now, I'm asking for money from that guy that I said no to, right? And so
people work and do business and put money with people they trust.
Yeah, this is in the words of game theory. This is not a one-time game. It's a repeated game, and so
plus everyone they know.
Right, that's exactly right.
Who ask about you? Do you know this
Right.
person? Yeah, I like him, and it might have nothing to do with. It's a totally different deal, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So yeah, I try, and I'm sure I have messed this up many times, but I try to be helpful, in the event that I can, and at least frame how I think about the opportunity or how the business might pursue some avenues of success that maybe they haven't thought about. But yeah, entrepreneurs are doing awesome things. It's a very difficult road, and I have all the respect in the world for people who are building businesses.
Well, I know you work with some incredible. I know only 2 or 3 of them that I've met over there at Sorensen Capital. What a great group of people with just top-down great leadership. So it's not surprising to me that you value that relationship, or that setting. You are a company builder and an entrepreneur at heart, and so I'm curious. Is it possible 5, 10, 15 years in the future that you'll still be building organizations at Sorensen Capital, or that maybe you'll?
Yeah, we'll see.
Who knows, right?
Yeah, who knows? Yeah. I mean, I think what I've figured out, and thankfully, business school helped me do this, is that I would fail in a large corporation. I'm just not. I don't have the skills, honestly. And so I know that the investment world is a place where I really enjoy, and hopefully I can drive success. I don't
think you'd be there 8 years after business school if you weren't driving success.
I like
you're
building,
very good at it.
Yeah, I like building businesses as well, and so I would imagine my career will be somewhere in those two camps, over time. But no, I think I think there's some great opportunities we have, so we'll keep running at them.
What do you think is the best part of his job from your perspective? And I'm not saying from his enjoyment. I meant from your life. What is good about it?
That's a good question. I don't know. Sorensen has been a huge blessing for us. I think the chance that he gets to, he's just been able to grow with these guys for so long.
Yeah.
To the point where they say, hey, we like you, we trust you, we want you to be our partner. I think that's a great opportunity for Brady, to sit around a table with some incredible people, who have groomed him and prepared him to be a leader at their firm, who now respect him and treat him like a partner. I think that's been one thing that I've appreciated is, they appreciated who he was from the beginning, and they've helped him stay the course. We weren't always sure if that was going to be an option, and we're just really appreciative of the people that said, we don't know what it's going to look like, but don't give up on us. And we didn't, and they didn't give up on us either, and we really appreciate that.
2 more questions, and these are very important to me. I would like to know each of your favorite movie, and if you have 2 that you can't choose between one, then I understand.
Favorite movie?
I love movies, but I'd have to say Only You is probably one of my favorite. I'm a rom-com nerd, and I also love Return to Me.
Ooh.
Those are good ones.
I have to be honest that for a while I had those 2 movies confused in my own head.
Yeah,
because they're similar, right?
I still do.
Yeah.
They both
Great
end up
movies.
in Italy at some point.
Great movies.
Oh man, probably like an Inception or Interstellar, something like that. I like those type of geek out movies. I also like racing movies like Ford versus Ferrari.
Yeah.
I used to be a total Transformers geek.
Yeah.
I like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars.
All right.
Pretty much all of the stuff that geeks like.
All right.
That's pretty much my...
What's your favorite movie?
Whew, gosh, almost everything you named was pretty good.
Yeah.
I kind of like Groundhog Day.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I just bought it actually
Yeah.
because I was like, we don't have it. It was Groundhog's Day. I wanted to watch that.
I've seen it a lot, too many times by myself. But
Yeah.
And the last one, like, who are 1 or 2 of your favorite composers, both to listen to and to play? This is
That's a great, John Schmidt's probably my top. I love the way he creates music. It flows incredibly well. He can make, I'll put it this way, he can make a moderate pianist sound like an amazing pianist. And so for me, that's incredibly helpful, right? So I love that. I've started to play some of the more classical music, like a Clair de Lune and things like that, and I really appreciate that music as well. But yeah, I think I've got 6 or 7 of John Schmidt's books. So local guy trying to support the Utah scene, but no, his music's fantastic. So
I agree. How about you?
Well, I was going to say, he can't get enough of Peter Bensay. Have
Okay.
you ever watched any of his piano videos on YouTube?
I have.
He's incredible pianist. He can play, I think, the fastest of any pianist ever or something. So he's obsessed with him too. I'm like, this is so nerdy, but
I literally will listen to that
He
in the car.
loves it.
Like, that's why I turn on his.
I'm a piano dropout, so
you know,
I don't have the same affinity for it.
He's like one of the best pianists to ever walk the earth by far. Anyway, but that's more of like just the engineering of his talent is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. 700 notes in a minute, I think, was his record. So
That's just not right.
yeah.
I'm with you. I'm a dropout. But in my house, my wife, my daughters, my son have
play.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of piano. It's brought a lot of joy.
Good.
In our home over the years. Thank you so much, not only for coming down and helping the college students with sharing your wisdom and your experiences, but also for participating in this podcast at the expense of doing anything else you could do. I'm sure that kids need some tending to, and I really, really am grateful that you took time, and it's also been really a pleasure getting to know both of you too.
Likewise. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.